going to start to record. So I'm going to share our screen in just a second here, but I just wanted to say thanks all for being here. I know to take an evening, out of your time, although I think a lot of us are sitting at home right now. We're certainly grateful for you to give of your time and your talent to be here tonight and to support the Y. And I'm just going to share a screen really quick here. All right, just making sure you all can see that. Oops. Oh, my slides went too far. Okay. So I just want to start off by kind of introducing who will be speaking tonight. So first of all, my name is Sarah Baggett. My title is the Director of Development for the Lake County Y, but what I really am is a storyteller and a connector. And I'll pass it over to Joe so he can introduce himself.
Hi, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Joe Edger. I'm the Executive Director at the Central YMCA in Paynesville. So I'll be talking a little bit more tonight, so you get to hear me a couple more times.
Great. Michelle, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I'm Michelle Kuster. I'm the Executive Director for the East End Y and for the Outdoor Y. And I'll have a little something to share too.
Great. Go ahead, Sherry.
Hi, I'm Sherry Emmerich. I'm the director at the West End YMCA in Willoughby.
Awesome. All right, so I wanted to start off first by, I know that some of you are new campaigners with us. Some of you have done this before. Some of you are current board members or past board members, but I just want to kind of take a second to talk about what is the annual campaign. So the annual campaign is a fundraising initiative that makes the Y available to people who cannot afford the cost of the programs that we do and the membership fees that we have. So by removing financial barriers, we are able to fulfill our mission to make the Y available for all people. The campaign makes it possible for children, families, seniors, our neighbors and friends, and others to benefit from Y programs, membership, regardless of their financial situation. So like many nonprofits, we have been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And I realized today, since it's March 4th, it's been almost a year ago that our doors were closed and we had to pivot in order to meet the needs of our community. Since then, we've seen membership drop down 62%. Our revenue has gone down 58%. And usage of the Y is down 60% from normal. Now, that being said, we had to pivot. And we did pivot to still continue to serve our community. And these are just a few photos I wanted to share with you guys of some of the things that we continue to do to serve our community. We pivoted to offer 51 classes a week in virtual programming to keep our community active, engaged, and healthy. We supported seniors by reaching out to over 1,600 of them to do wellness checks and connect them with community resources. We continued our work with the Family Resource Center and the Cleveland Food Bank as a food distribution site to combat food insecurity. We engaged children in summer camp, a drive-through trunk or treat. We even held our annual Thanksgiving dinner out at West End as a drive-through event and served 250 people Thanksgiving dinner at no cost to them. We even still had our annual peanut butter and jelly drive, and that supports area food pantries around Lake County. So we still were able to accomplish quite a bit, even though we were closed, even though people were not able to move about in the normal ways that they would. And so we're really proud of being able to do that and being able to continue to serve our community. A lot of great things happened with the annual campaign kind of as a result of this. And that's kind of, I just want to share a little snapshot of what it looked like in 2019, which is more of a normal year for us, and what it looked like last year in 2020. Many folks stayed with us and contributed to the Y in support of the activities I was telling you about. And this allowed us to raise more funds than ever before and brought in a record number of new donors to the Y. It also, and probably more importantly, raised awareness in our community of the Y as a nonprofit. That's something that we're constantly having to push our message out there. And I'm often told that people didn't know that we were a nonprofit, and we are in fact a 501c3. So while we didn't give out quite as much this past year in financial assistance, you can still see that we made a significant impact. So I want to show you just kind of a snapshot of what each month, even in 2020, kind of looked like with financial assistance. On average, we still provided over $37,000 in financial assistance for membership and programs. We still served 783 families on average per month with those funds. And again, that total of over $452,000 was provided across Lake County for financial assistance. So I'm going to pass it over to Sherry for a moment, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about a program, and each of the execs are going to talk a little bit about a program at the Wise.
Good evening. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the pandemic child care program that we ran. 2020 was definitely a different year for our child care centers. As all of you guys know, we closed our doors on March 16th. And we sanitized our buildings, trained staff, and 5 days later, we opened for pandemic childcare. It was we served a low number of kids because the ratio was 1 to 6, but it was very essential. We served, here at Weston, I know we served about 30 kids, and I know the other branches were just about as much, but it was very essential. We served a lot of those health caregivers that had to get to work. We moved right into camp, same ratios, same things, but we did get to serve a lot more kids. Went right into virtual learning. And then currently we're doing before and after school and preschool. So a total, with low ratios, we still served almost 1,200 kids this last year. So I'm very proud of the staff and the directors that ran those programs. They really stepped up.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. Joe, I'm going to pass it over to you.
So we again, just like everybody else in 2020, had to pivot our summer learning loss prevention program. Normally what is done in the Paynesville City Schools for 32 students was moved to an all virtual format where the students had virtual classrooms. They had one-on-one time with their teachers so they could help them. And the great thing about the program that we ran last year, while they weren't in person, we were still able to serve 32 students. The students that participated in the program, one of the fantastic stories is a handful of the students improved not only a reading level, but they improved 3 reading levels. So they are, some of them were even at where they needed to be or above to be back into their normal classrooms when they returned to school, which if you consider the fact that schools were closed in March and they didn't go back to school, for them to be able to catch back up to their peers that they were already behind is phenomenal. And we've already reached out to Paynesville City Schools for this summer. We are looking at providing that program within the school system, and in talking to the leadership for Paynesville City Schools for 2021, they're seeing it as an even bigger need than any other year they've ever had before, because many of the students coming in hadn't been in a physical classroom since last March. And a lot of them still weren't even in a physical classroom coming back into the school year this year. So they've identified that as an even larger need this summer than what we've ever had before.
Great, thanks, Joe. And Michelle, can you talk to us a little bit about safety around water and what we do for drowning prevention?
Sure. So I believe back in 2012, the decision was made between the executive director and myself. We talked about how the close proximity that we have to Lake Erie and how important it would be to be able to teach as many children as we could, the basic safety needs around water, the do's and don'ts around water, what to do if they get in a certain situation around the water that's not safe. So we approached the Madison schools and we had a conversation with them asking that they would like to collaborate with us to help the students get this education around water. So what we did when we first started, the schools bused all the 3rd grade students to the Y at their cost, and at our cost, we presented the program. They were 4-week long program, and then they practiced in the water or in the wild for about 30 minutes each time. This isn't your traditional learn how to swim program. Many of these kids had never even seen a pool, so for some it was kind of fearful for them, you know? So that was the point, was try to teach them to respect the water, learn what they need to do, learn what not to do. You know, they did a lot of fun things. They got to go in the canoe and things like that. So we do it we've done it in the spring. We start in the fall of the school year, and then in the spring of the school year in order to accommodate the schools that we have to accommodate. But since then, I know that the other branches have also been able to run these programs as well. And it also helps the Y, because the kids go home and tell them how much they love it, and, you know, maybe get some memberships out of it. But, you know, money that we raise helps to support this program on the Y's end of this. And I think it's really important because we're around Lake Erie. And up here where it says on the screen, it's the third leading cause of unintentional death worldwide. You would never expect that. But people don't know the dangers of water. So, you know, unfortunately, this past school year and this school year, I mean, we've had to not run the class because the schools aren't busing their students anymore, but I hope that we get right back into it come the fall. So, and that's it. Anybody have any questions about the program?
Actually, if you have any questions about any of the programs that you hadn't talked about, we'd love to take a second and be able to answer some of those. Okay. I wanted to share just one quick story from a parent while we were doing childcare during the pandemic. I had the opportunity while I was taking temperatures at check-in to talk to a couple of the moms, and they're bringing their kids in for care, and they expressed how grateful that they are that we were able to open our facilities to the pandemic childcare. Both moms worked at local nursing homes, and they were caring for some of our most vulnerable loved ones. One of the moms expressed that she's a single parent, and without our childcare, she would have had nowhere else for her child to be, so that she can take care of those patients who depend on her now more than ever, because their families can't visit right now. And as they are starting to be able to do that a little bit more, you know, we're certainly grateful to have been in that gap to be able to take care of those moms' children, and allow them to be able to take care of our older adults. So, all right. So I'm going to keep going here, but feel free, if you have questions, you can either throw them in the chat and we'll come back to them, you know, at the end. So if you want to make sure you don't forget it. I want to talk a little bit about our goal. So while each branch does have a goal for the annual campaign, we are working together now more than ever as an association to reach our big goal across Lake County, and that's 290,000. The campaign actually starts in the fall. So the executive directors who are on here, many of our board members and some volunteers, we've been working hard kind of behind the scenes to get things started. We start in the fall with our board and our staff campaigns. And then in January and February, we begin our major gifts campaigns. So I'm really excited to say that as of today, we have $136,000 already pledged from those portions of the campaign. So we're well on our way, but we need help. And this is where you all come in as we begin the community phase of the campaign. So let's talk a little bit about your role as a campaigner. Throughout the year, and especially during the annual campaign, we rely on volunteers to be ambassadors and champions of our mission. This is achieved through sharing our stories and communicating our impact, connecting people to our cause, and providing them the opportunity to give back to their community by volunteering and donating. The campaign is as much about fundraising or communicating the Y's daily impact on people's lives as it is about raising money. So our campaign will begin on March 8th, that's on Monday, and it'll run through April 5th. So each week during the campaign, we're asking that you would make calls to previous donors. So these are folks who have already given to our campaign in the past, have already donated to us, and you're calling them, which is kind of nice. They already know that we're a nonprofit. They already know that they've supported us. And so, it's not like making a cold call per se. We'll ask that you complete a pledge sheet, which I'm going to show you a little bit later, what the pledge sheet is, what it looks like, and how you fill it in. And then turn in those pledge sheets. That's really hard to say, each Monday. And And then, you know, if you feel compelled to write a thank you note, we would love to do that. We do try to have a thank you note sent to each of our folks when they donate, although we do have board members and other folks who will do that sometimes with us too. So you can do it via email or handwritten note. We can provide thank you notes to you, and we'd be happy to cover the postage, as you know, if you just want to write them and turn them in. So, all right, so getting started. So we can't, the first thing on this is to make your own pledge first. We really can't ask others to give if we aren't willing to do it. It's easier to ask someone to join us. The second is know what you're doing and why. Learn about your why and the facts about how the donations are used. Be prepared to share your why story and why you're campaigning for the why. And the last one is review your pledge cards and your lists. All of our donors are assigned to a campaigner to ensure that individuals are contacted by one volunteer. You might have other individuals that you would like to contact, but before reaching out to those folks, we would ask that you would share that list with the executive director. There is a form that'll be in your packet that allows you to write down folks that you might want to contact that maybe aren't on your campaign, might not be in your campaign sheets. What we'll do is check to see if those folks have been assigned to someone else and let you know if they can, if you can go ahead and ask them, and we'll give you a pledge sheet to go with those folks. If we can, we're just trying to keep it so we don't have people asking the same person 6 times, more or less. So what is sharing your why story? So I put some questions up here, some things to kind of help you think about your why story, and to also help you kind of ask people what their why story might be, because sometimes you'll call somebody and they'll just say, I don't have a why story. Well, I think we all do. And maybe they just don't know they have a why story yet. So I'll take a second just to tell you my why story, which has evolved many times over, but I'm going to kind of start from the beginning and just give you a little snippet of it. But I came to the why. We had just moved to the area. I didn't know anybody, I mean, nobody, and there was no family around. So I was really, really on my own, and we had small children. So I think at that time I had a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old. And for those of you who have had small kids, or for those of you who have small grandchildren, they are challenging at times, and you need a break and you need people and you need a community, right? So the why for me was this place where I got to go and meet a ton of new people. I got connected to a church through that. I got to put my kids in childcare for a little while and focus on a little bit of me time, you know, some time to kind of recharge myself and connect with other people. So the why has meant a great deal to me over the years, but that's kind of how my why story started. So take some time to kind of think about, what is your why story? How long have you been a member of the why? Why do you have a passion for volunteering for the why? Why are you signed up as a campaigner? Have you or does someone you know, have they benefited from financial assistance from the why? So making the ask is really about sharing your story and asking them their story. Taking a few minutes to maybe share some good work of the why, some of the things that we talked about, or some of the programs that maybe are special to you, things that you have participated in, ways you've seen the why. You know, if you've been a part of serving Thanksgiving dinner, you know that that's just a phenomenal experience to be able to be taking care of some people who might not have anywhere else to go on Thanksgiving. And so just a cool thing. So, and then the last piece of that is to ask for a specific amount. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So I gave you kind of an example of what an ask might look like. And I'll just quickly read that. So we're trying to raise $270,000 to make sure that every child has access to critical programs through the Y, regardless of ability to pay. I'd like you to join me in supporting the campaign and consider a gift of, and you'll put the amount in there. And so when it comes to the amount, when you get your pledge sheet, and I am going to show you one here in a little bit, it will show you what the person has donated in the past years. My suggestion is to aim a little bit above that. So if, for instance, I got a pledge card and it said that the person gave $150 last year, I might ask them for $200 and just see if what they say about that. Sometimes, and you actually say this in here, you may want to give more, you may not be in a position to give as much, but whatever you give, it'll definitely be well used and definitely very greatly appreciated. And then just take a minute and let them digest that. You just made an ask and let them think about, if that works for them or if they want to go in a different direction. So, oh, and the other thing that I want to say too is that as you're kind of talking about your story, and as you ask them their story, you might kind of glean some things that might be important to them, some programs that might be special to them. For example, if they mention having young children, you may want to share with them how the Y supported learning this year. Or if you're talking to a senior, you might want to share how the Y worked to engage seniors through our well-check phone calls and through virtual classes. So I want to take a second now, and I'm gonna pass the microphone, if you will, over to Joe and to Dale, who are going to do an ask. And guys, if you hang on one second, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you guys get a little bit bigger on the screen, hopefully, as you talk. And I'm going to let you guys show them what it's like.
Hi, Dale. How have you been?
Good, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while. I'm still coming into the Y, but not as much. And I know you're all kinds of other places than being in the office. So yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah. You too. We've all had to change a little bit right now, where nobody's doing anything the same, whether that's at the Y or anywhere else.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'm glad you're still able to come in.
yeah,
so-
not as often as I would like, but hey, I'm doing the best I can with the time I've got.
Yeah, we've all got that COVID-19 we need to lose, but it's more the weight than the virus, right? So I just wanted to see if I could bend your ear for a little bit. I wanted to, we've chatted a lot, but I really wanted to share my Y story with you, and why the Y is important to me. And I hope that it kind of speaks to you, and we can develop our relationship a little bit more. But my Y story, I grew up with the Y. My parents were involved. I was a Y brat growing up. If you've been to the Y, you see all those kids running around. I was, was one of those kids. Not the troublemaker though. I was the good kid.
Joe, you probably were. You just don't want to admit it.
But as I grew up, I started working for the Y, and the reason that I'm actually still working for the Y is a story I had when I was a swim instructor. I had taught these two young kids that were in swim lessons, and I thought it was going great, and they kept coming back, and they were on financial assistance, and that was how they were able to do swim lessons. And then I became an aquatic director, and the kids stopped coming. I couldn't figure out why. They stopped just before I transitioned out, and I thought it was something that I did. And about 4 months later, the mom came up and she wanted to have a conversation with me, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, it's the mom of the kids who quit coming to swim lessons, and now I'm the aquatic director, and she wants to come and bend my ear about something that didn't go right. And I couldn't have been more wrong, because she said because of the Y and the scholarship program that they offered, her kids, they were playing in their backyard and they were playing ball, and she had to go inside to go inside for a couple of minutes and came back out a little bit later, and she had one kid that was soaking wet. The youngest child fell into their backyard pool at 5 years old, and the older boy at 7 knew enough, because they were in those swim lessons through the Y, not to go at first, not to go into the water to get them, but to throw them something that will help them float. And she said, because of the Y, if it weren't for the Y, I'd be standing here not just without one child, but I'd be standing here without 2 kids, because the other child would have jumped in to try to save the other child. And he said, because of the Y, he knew enough not to do that, and he knew enough how to save his brother. So I'm eternally grateful for the opportunity that this scholarship has provided with me. So that's what's kept me here. And we all have those stories of, what the Y means to you, or why you work for the Y, or why you're a member of the Y. I'm hoping that if you don't have one now, you will soon.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Joe. It was probably a month or two ago. I was up in the fitness area, and Chris Martinson was kind of telling me she kind of grew up there in the Y and Leaders Club, and found that as being a kind of way it really got her rolling too. So you're right. There's probably a lot of folks that have those good memories of what the Y has meant to them.
So I'm hoping, Dale, that the Y means as much to you as it does to me. and that you'd be willing to join us as a donor for our campaign this year at our Chairman's Roundtable level.
I appreciate you asking. I don't know if you knew, I was laid off there for about 8 weeks when the first part of the pandemic kicked in. And so we've had to regroup finances a little bit. For my wife, she was working part-time and that laid off of it too. You know, I'd like to be supportive with you, but that amount probably is more than what we'd probably be able to take off.
I hear you, Dale. You know, this has been a difficult year, I'd say, for not just you, but for everybody in our community, whether that's financially or health-wise or isolation. You know, it's the same at the Y. It's no different. You know, one of the nice things about our campaign is we can send an invoice later on in the year, maybe when you guys are doing better. You know, we're still meeting the needs. We're still offering our childcare programs, our swim lesson programs. Would you consider a donation of $500 this year? And then we can send an invoice in August or September.
Yeah, you know, that might be a possibility. Let me talk to Garnet about it. Again, we've got other things that we're doing, so this would be something new that to add to the mix, but the Y is a valuable piece. Let me talk with Garnet and see.
Okay. I always have to ask my wife's permission for any time I'm spending money. So I completely understand that. If there's anything that I can do to help you or give you any other information, you know, it's a $500 donation, and with that we can send 20 kids through our Safety Around Water program this summer, and I can't think of a better way to spend $500 than giving those kids an opportunity to be safe and to know how to save themselves, especially when we're so close to lakes and rivers.
Yeah, no, our kids grew up there at the pool too, and know that benefit. When do you want to get back with me to let you know after I've talked to Garnet?
Well, if it works for you, I can call you back early next week, and we can reconvene. So
Do you have a
give
day
you
in mind? What
yeah.
about-
How about I'll give you a call on Tuesday? Are you available Tuesday afternoon? Say 3 o'clock.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Anytime after 3 o'clock.
Okay, that's great. We'll connect then, and hopefully we'll be able to help save some lives.
Okay. Hey, great. Thanks for your contact there, Joe.
Thanks, Dale.
Bye.
Now don't hang up, you two. Hook it. All right, so I just want to take a second to touch on their ask in that role play. So yeah, sometimes you know, you might make an ask, and certainly given the times that we're experiencing right now, people may not be able to do that stretch amount. We have seen folks be incredibly generous though, so it may happen, it may not happen. But I love how Joe and he kind of came back around and explained again, you know, how much it would mean to us, and lowered that and asked us something that might be a little more feasible. So if someone says, no, they can't do that, you know, it's okay to ask them for a lesser amount, or to ask them if they, you know, if there's a number that they might feel more comfortable, you know, contributing. So once you've made that ask, we just want you to confirm that amount. You'll write it on the pledge card, and definitely don't forget to say thank you if they donating or not. Thank them for the opportunity to get to talk with them, to share your story and to hear their story. Thank you is probably the most important thing you can do or say to somebody, regardless of their ability to support or not. So because we are really grateful for them. So just a quick note about how pledges can be paid, and you'll mark this on the pledge card. I'm going to show you that. I'm actually going to go ahead and flip over here to the donate. This is what our donor pledge sheet looks like. So if you haven't seen this before, and I have a little pointer thing that I just discovered with this. So when you get this, you will see that their name and contact information is up here on the card. We would ask if you could just try to confirm that information when you talk to them. Over here on the right side, you'll see that there's a space for the campaigner name. There may or may not be a name in there depending on if this is someone you've asked before or not. So we just ask that you would write your name in there so that we can know who asked who and just match those up. Down here, you will see, oh, here is where you can adjust if the information is not correct. You can write in the current information. And then down here, you'll see their giving history. Now I mentioned before, if you're looking for an amount that you might ask for. So this person donated $71.50. So I might ask them to do $100 this year instead of the $71.50. Now, if they've told me they were laid off or something like that, then certainly, you can either ask them to do the same amount or less. But and then there's a little spot over here. If they mentioned working for a company, or if you happen to know them and they work for a company, there are several companies in Northeast Ohio that do company match gifts. And if we can note that, that's wonderful. Oftentimes they do have to fill out some sort of a form, but it makes their donation go further. Help me out, Joe, here. I know Lubrizol will do it, does a company match. PNC does company match.
Yep. And let me see, PNC, Lubrizol.
Progressive Insurance does also.
Yep.
Yeah, Progressive.
One Digital.
Yes. Yeah. So there's several companies that do, and I think Eaton does also.
Yep.
Dominion Gas does too.
Dominion. Oh, nice. I didn't know that. There you go. All right. So that's kind of the top portion of the pledge card. And the bottom portion here, there's not a whole lot for you to fill out here. The only piece that we're going to ask you to fill out is the payment options. So, oops, I'm sorry, I clicked. Okay, so down here in the payment options section, whether they wish to pay in full, if they went to set up an automatic draft, or if they would like to have just a reminder kind of sent to them. And the other option is for them to go online. So if you go to lakecountyymca.org/donate, you'll see our donation pages. And I'm going to go back here to this other slide really quick. So you can see that website, lakecountyymca.org/donate. And that's another way that they can put in their pledge. They can put in their pledge and they can pay it, or they can put in their pledge and it goes into our system as a pledge, and then we would send them an invoice later. So any of those ways would be great. And if you can just kind of note that on there, like I said, in the payment options section. Okay. I wanted to circle back here to the prospect request form. So I mentioned this earlier, but there will be a form in your packet that if there's someone that you would like to ask who is not in your list of phone calls to make, we just ask that if you would kind of check with us to make sure that they aren't assigned to another campaigner. Again, trying to just avoid someone getting asked 5 or 6 times because they're the guy who's always at the Y. So now most people are pretty good about it, but again, we'll just try to help, alleviate that. So, all right, so on to the fun part. So yeah.
Peggy, what about leaving messages? If people are like this, they're not answering the phone these days if they don't recognize name and number.
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Peggy. So actually, when I called Peggy, she didn't answer right away, and the answering machine picked up. And I actually said, "Hi, Peggy, this is Sarah Baggett from the Lake County YMCA. I just wanted to reach out and ask you a question. I think if you can leave something that identifies you as a volunteer, if you know the person, it should be pretty easy. But I would just identify yourself as the volunteer and let them know, that you'll try again later. I would then, maybe try the call at a different time of day, another time." If after, 2, maybe even a third time, you're not able to get people on the phone, it's okay. They probably don't want to talk to us. We'll just move on. We're not going to, badger folks to do that. But again, I think they're going to see a strange number, let them know that you're a volunteer. I'm sure people are a little bit more, weary. I know the other day, I think I got 4 warranty phone calls on my cell phone, and 2 of them were local numbers. but it was a warranty, just a recorded message thing. So certainly people might be a little bit weary, but again, if you can identify yourself as a volunteer with a Y, hopefully that will help, open the door a little bit. So thanks for that, Peggy. Is there any other questions before I talk a little bit about prizes and fun stuff? Okay. All right. So each week, every completed pledge form that gets turned in each week, you're going to be given an entry into a drawing to win a prize. I did take pictures of the prizes, but I forgot to upload them. So I will send them out in the weekly updates. But if you can turn in your pledge forms on Monday, that'll qualify you then for the drawing. We'll take everything that was turned in up until that Monday and put your name in a prize drawing. We will do a drawing for each branch. So each branch will have a winner. So that's a little nice. But we will also do at the end of the campaign, the campaigner who has gotten the most new pledges will receive a special prize, as well as the campaigner who raised the most money for the Y. There will also be a prize for each and every campaigner who returns all of their pledge sheets completed to the Y. We'll have a little special prize for you. So, and of course, it's lots of fun Y gear. If you have seen our prizes in the past, it's always very, very fun Y stuff that we all like. So, all right. So next steps, each of the executive directors and myself, we have campaign packets. So these will have your list of campaigners. I know some of you might be remote, Judy, and not able to come into the branch to pick it up, or maybe you don't feel comfortable coming into the branch to pick it up. So we can email those to you. You would just need to let your executive director know if you want the information emailed to you, or if you can come to the Y and pick it up. And I believe most folks are starting pickup tomorrow. Is that right, Joe, Sherry?
Yep, it'll be available tomorrow. And if you are still comfortable coming, but not going into the Y, you can call us and we can bring it out to you.
Awesome.
I'll reach out and let them know when they're ready.
Thanks, Michelle. Great.
Ours will be ready at noon tomorrow.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. So at this point, then I just want to kind of open it up to questions. I'm going to put this slide has each of our names, where we work out of, and our email addresses. So if you need to contact us, the emails are up there. Although I think most of you probably know us and know our cell phone numbers and things too. So if you have any questions that you don't think of now, feel free to use that to contact us. But if there's any other questions or thoughts, things that you're unsure of, anything you'd like me to go over, be happy to get those.
Maybe we should mention that, the Y has sent out emails and text messages about fundraising, about donating.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is the folks that you are contacting are those who have given between $100, it was from $101 to $999 for the most part. We have already been contacting most of our folks who are $1,000 and above, which is our chairman's roundtable. And the folks that are under the $100, so we started an email campaign for those folks to reach out to them because at this point, with over 800 new donors, there's more people than we could possibly call to be able to donate. So, and then on top of that, yes, as a part of the Reset Challenge, this week's challenge was to reinvest in the community. So there was an email that went out regarding donating to the Y, as well as a text message that went out and took you to the website to be able to donate. So information is starting to go out. You will see thermometers go up in the branches. And I know Sherry's got these really cool hands that she's going to put names on everybody that donates and put them up on the wall. So you'll start to see some of those. If you're visiting our Ys, you'll start to see some of that in the locations. Do you have a question, Dale? You can go ahead.
Yeah, two items for it. One is, you may notice when Joe and I were doing that role playing, that, and something you may find that happens is persons do need to think about it, whether it's just themselves or with a spouse or a partner. And as Joe came back and said, a particular day and a time, so that it's something you leave that meeting with that person knowing that you're following up with them at a time that works for them. If we leave it open-ended, it's too easy for things to just kind of slide away. So make sure that you have a time that they feel okay for you to follow up with them is an important piece. The other's a question, Sarah, for you. If this past year, which is great, we raised 352,000, but our only goal is 290, persons could say, well, why aren't you needing as much as last year?
Yeah. So that amount is a combination of our annual campaign as well as the Stay With Us campaign, which I know many of you contributed to. So that was a total amount, and that's where we got a lot of those new donors from. We don't know what that landscape is going to look like. And so we've stayed on target with our, we had a 5-year plan to grow our annual campaign. So we're staying on target with that plan to grow it. If we see that the donations, continue to increase, then certainly we'll adjust going into next year. But given the pandemic and kind of just where things are right now, we just don't know where we're going to land. So we feel like 290,000 is a realistic target for us for this year. So but we're definitely hoping to see it go above that. I mean, that would be incredible.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Sure. Ruth put a few questions here in the chat, so I want to touch on those. She asked if we're sending pledge forms via email. So we will send out the pledge forms to you all. You don't need to email them to other people. You can email them back to us or send an email with information in it if that's easier, back to your executive or your contact. Like for Ruth, you're working with me. You can just send me the information back and I'll lay all that out for you in an email about how to do that, because I know Ruth is actually going to be calling folks from Columbus. I know Judy's going to be calling people from Florida. Dale is in Pennsylvania. So we have people working remotely, volunteering their time remotely on our behalf. So we'll walk through that process of how to get pledge forms. And then we'll follow up with the people, after that with their pledge forms. And then the second question Ruth asked is, are all gifts unrestricted or can somebody specify a program? Yeah, people can absolutely specify a program if there's something that they feel passionate or connected to and they want to designate that gift to a certain program, they absolutely can. Just write that in the notes on the pledge card. And then Ruth also asked if there are benefits for different levels of giving. So as far as benefits for different levels, once someone hits $1,000 and above, there is a kind of an added benefit. You become a part of what's called our Chairman's Roundtable. So gifts that are $1,000 and above, there's a different sized sign based on the gift level, but there's a sign that goes up in the branch of your choice with either your name or a company logo on that sign that helps recognize that donation and that partnership to work together for the community. Chris asks, are we contacting people who gave only through the Stay at Home program? No, so the list that you have are folks who have given to the Stay With Us campaign and your branch. So if you are working with a branch, for the couple of people that are working with me on the through the Metro side, these are folks who have not given to a branch in the past. These are brand new donors that were, they were new donors last year to us. But the folks who are working through a branch, they have also given to your campaign in the past. So it's a combination, and they may have given in 2020, they may have given in 2019 or 18 or 17. So, but they have given to you in the past and have a relationship with your branch. Great questions. Anyone else? All right. Well, hearing none, if anything comes up, again, feel free to reach out to myself or to the executive branch. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here. And thanks so much for giving again of your time and your talent to be able to help support the Y and the work that we can do in the community. So we definitely could not do this without you all. All right. Well, have a great night, everyone. It was nice to see you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.